Okay, so strap in, everybody, because today we are going deep on Oswald Cobblepot, a.k.a. the Penguin. And you've sent us a ton of stuff about his role in the new Batman movie. So we've got articles and even some comic book storylines to dig into. Big question I think we all have is Penguin actually going to be the main bad guy in the Batman Part 2? Or is there something else going on? And then how does his whole HBO show tie into the movie? Like, does that even matter?
Well, what's really interesting to me is how much Penguin has changed since the first movie. Like, he went from this kind of mid-level gangster to basically running Gotham by the end of his show. So the big question is, what does that mean for the sequel?
Right, because on the one hand, Colin Farrell said he only has a couple scenes in the new movie, but then his show ends with him on top of the world. So how does that add up?
Yeah, that's a puzzle, isn't it? I think we need to break this down from a few angles. First, I think we got to look at exactly how he managed to grab so much power in the series.
Yep.
Because that's going to tell us what he's capable of in the movie.
Okay, so remind us how he pulled off that power grab.
Well, he starts by taking out his rivals, which, a classic gangster move. But the way he does it is pretty interesting. Getting rid of Sofia Gigante was just step one. Then he systematically dismantles what was left of the old Falcone and Maroni families.
Wow.
Right. He basically wipes the slate clean. But here's the thing. He doesn't stop there. He partners up with this super shady councilman, Sebastian Hardy, and uses that to gain influence in, legitimate Gotham society.
So he's playing both sides, criminal mastermind and respectable businessman.
Exactly. And that really echoes how he's been portrayed in the comics.
Oh, yeah, totally. Speaking of the comics, you brought a couple storylines that might be relevant here. Penguin. Pain and Prejudice, and Tom King's The Penguin. What can those tell us about him?
Well, Pain and Prejudice really dives into Penguin's backstory, like his super messed up relationship with his mother and how that warped him. And it shows how he uses this whole sophisticated gentleman persona to hide his ruthlessness.
Yeah, he wants to be seen as high class, but there's always that darkness underneath.
Exactly. And you see that in the show, too, especially in that final scene.
Oh my God, when he strangles his right-hand man, Vic.
Right. Total turning point. Now, Tom King's The Penguin is a different take. You actually see him working as an informant for Batman early in his career. He's feeding Batman info to take down Karma and Falcone, but even then you see his ambition. He's always thinking 10 steps ahead.
So we've got these two comic book versions of Penguin, both complex, both dangerous. And then we have the HBO show where he basically becomes the Kingpin. How do we connect all this to the new movie?
Well, the director Matt Reeves said the show is a direct bridge to the sequel. So whatever happened in that finale, it's going to shape Gotham City when Batman comes back.
You know what's really interesting? The series finale actually mirrors some stuff from those comics. Like how Penguin uses Councilman Haggy to manipulate the law.
Uh-huh.
That feels straight out of King's the Penguin.
Yeah.
Where he's playing both Batman and Falcone.
Right.
But in the show, it's not just about taking down a rival. It's about making himself a legitimate power player.
Exactly. Which brings up a huge question. What if Penguin isn't the main villain in the Batman Part 2? Could he be using this legitimacy to pull off an even bigger scheme? Maybe he's playing the long game, trying to become untouchable.
Whoa, okay. My head is spinning. So we've got Penguin rigging the legal system. He's the kingpin of crime. A&D, he's got that history as an informant. Could he be working with Batman again, but secretly using that to get what he wants?
That is a fantastic question, and one we need to explore more as we dig into these sources. But before we go there, there's one more piece to consider, Selina, Kyle. One article mentioned Catwoman might be back in the sequel, and she could be teaming up with Sofia Gigante, who obviously wants revenge on Penguin.
Oh man, this work gets good.
Yeah.
Love, betrayal, revenge.
Yeah.
So if Selina's involved, she's got history with both Batman and Penguin. Whose side is she on?
Now that is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it shows just how complex and unpredictable this world is. We've only scratched the surface, but I think we're starting to see the forces at play in the Batman Part 2.
For sure. And this is just the beginning. We've got a lot more to unpack, so buckle up, because this deep dive is about to get even wilder.
You know, it's amazing how Penguin always seems so in control, even when everything's going crazy around him. It's like he thrives on chaos.
Yeah, totally. And remember what Colin Farrell said about focusing on Penguin's voice in the sequel? Not just literally, but like his whole personality, his way of thinking.
Right, so even if he's only in a few scenes, he could still have a huge impact on the story.
It's almost like he's playing this big game of chess, and Gotham City is his board.
Exactly. But then we have those two different versions of him from the comics. The mastermind from Pain and Prejudice, and the informant from Tom King's run. How do those fit into this picture?
I think maybe those comics show us two potential paths for him in the movie. He could be the mastermind pulling strings from the shadows, Or he could be playing a more ambiguous role, maybe even working with Batman again, but always with his own goals in mind.
Yeah, it's like he's constantly shifting between those two sides of himself. You never know which Penguin you're going to get.
But let's not forget, his rise to power isn't just about outsmarting other criminals. He's playing on a whole other level now. He's got connections in high society. He's manipulating the legal system.
He's practically untouchable.
Exactly.
And that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Because he's not just a threat to the underworld. He's a threat to Gotham itself.
Yeah. For anyone listening, how do you even fight someone who's basically become part of the system you're trying to protect?
It's going to take more than just brute force or detective work. Batman's going to need to be smarter, more strategic.
Oh, totally.
He's going to have to understand Penguin on a psychological level, anticipate his moves, and outmaneuver him.
It's like a battle of wits, a clash of ideologies.
Exactly.
And with Selina Kyle possibly being back, things could get even more complicated, especially if she's teamed up with Sofia and they're both out for revenge.
Yeah, where does that leave Batman?
It's like a Batman love triangle,
Yeah.
but with way higher stakes than just romance.
Right, we're talking about the fate of Gotham City. If Penguin wins, if he really becomes the puppet master, then the city is doomed.
This is intense. Let's go back to the comics for a second. You said Pain and Prejudice really explores Penguin's relationship with his mother. How could that play into the sequel?
Well, we saw hints of that in the show. How he manipulates his girlfriend Eve to kind of fill that motherly role. It's all about control for him.
Yeah.
This need to recreate that dynamic from his childhood. But in the sequel, I think we might see that taken to a whole new level.
You mean like he tries to exert that same control over all of Gotham?
Exactly. It wouldn't be about territory or money anymore. It would be about bending the entire city to his will.
Wow. Okay, and then there's Tom King's The Penguin, where he's working as an informant.
Yeah.
Could we see that again in the Batman Part 2?
It's possible, especially if he's trying to keep up this whole legitimate businessman act.
Yeah.
He could be feeding Batman just enough info to keep him busy.
While secretly working his own angle.
Exactly.
That's so sneaky. But it would be a great story. Imagine Batman realizing he's been played by the guy he thought he could trust.
Yeah, that would be a huge blow. It would show how dangerous Penguin has become.
And it would raise the stakes for their whole conflict. It wouldn't just be about stopping Penguin's latest scheme. It would be about Batman proving he can't be manipulated so easily.
Right.
That he's still the world's greatest detective.
It would be a battle for intellectual dominance, a clash of egos.
And with Gotham hanging in the balance.
The outcome could be devastating.
Yeah, this is a lot to think about.
And don't forget the psychological aspect. Batman prides himself on being able to read people to understand their motives.
Right.
But with Penguin, it's like he's always one step ahead.
He's playing a game Batman doesn't even understand.
Exactly.
You know, it's interesting, though. We've talked about Penguin using Batman as an informant. But what if he's doing the same thing with Selina Kyle?
Oh, interesting. You think he might try to use her connection to Batman against them both?
Exactly. He knows Selina. He knows how to push her buttons. What if he feeds her bad information about Batman, tries to make her doubt him?
That is a devious strategy. He'd be playing both sides against each other, creating chaos and distrust.
Yeah, and with Selina, it could really work. She could easily become a pawn in his game.
It would be classic Penguin, using people's weaknesses against them.
That's what I love about these deep dives. You start with a few simple questions and you end up uncovering all this complexity.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, only to find another onion underneath. But that's what makes it so fascinating. With each layer, we get a deeper understanding of the characters and the themes of the story.
Okay, I think we need a minute to process all this. We've covered a lot of ground, and I feel like we're just getting started.
You know, we've been focusing on Penguin's smarts and how he manipulates people, but there's another piece to this puzzle, his connection to Gotham itself.
Right. It's like more than just being born there. It's like Gotham is part of him, you know?
Exactly, and that makes him even more dangerous. Because he's not just some outsider trying to muscle in, he understands the city, how it works, what makes it tick.
Yeah, and we saw that in this show, right? How we played the long game to take control, not just of the underworld, but of like the whole system.
Exactly, and that's what makes his role in the movie so interesting. Because now he's playing at a whole other level.
Yeah, imagine this. Penguin, with all his insider knowledge of Gotham, the infrastructure, the institutions, all the secrets. And he uses that to create chaos.
Wow.
Like, what if he messes with the power grid or the transportation system? He could bring the whole city to its knees without even lifting a finger.
And then in the middle of all that chaos, he steps in as the savior, the only one who can fix things.
Classic villain move, right?
Huh?
Create the problem, then offer the solution.
But with Penguin, it's so much worse. He's not just exploiting the situation, he's creating it.
So how do you even fight that?
That's where Batman's gonna need more than just his fists or his detective skills. He's gonna need to understand Penguin's mind. What makes him tick? What's his endgame?
Yeah, because this isn't just about stopping a criminal. It's about saving Gotham from itself.
Right. Penguin is like a symptom of a bigger problem. All the corruption and decay that's eating away at Gotham.
So Batman has to address those root causes. He has to fight for a better Gotham, even if it means taking on the system itself.
That's a tough battle. It might even force him to make some hard choices, to bend his own rules a little.
Yeah, but that's the price of being a hero in a city like Gotham. Sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire.
And that's what makes this whole conflict so compelling. It's not just good versus evil, it's a battle for Gotham's soul.
We've gone deep on Oswald Cobblepot today. His past, his rise to power, his twisted psychology, and how all that connects to Gotham. We've looked at articles, comic book storylines, and tried to figure out what he might do in the Batman Part 2.
And I think we've learned a lot. Penguin is a character who's hard to define. He's a villain, sure, but he's also a product of his environment, a reflection of Gotham itself.
So as you wait for the new movie, keep all this in mind. Pay attention to the little ways Penguin influences things, how he manipulates people to get what he wants.
And don't underestimate him.
Right, because in Gotham City, the quiet ones are often the most dangerous.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mind of the Penguin.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep diving deep.